Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Boy, y'all better buckle up for today's show. It's Monday, October 28th, 2024, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. My goodness, Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden fascist rally unleashed harsh criticism, racist commentary about Latinos, Puerto Ricans, black people, you name it. It had all of it. We'll talk to a Puerto Rico member of Congress from Florida to talk about the fiasco. Vice President Kamala Harris, she visited the Philadelphia Barbershop over the weekend to discuss various issues. She also sat down and talked to Shannon Sharpe and Club Shay Shay that dropped today as well. She also had something to say about those comments about Puerto Ricans, even dropping a new ad as well. We got all of it for you. Plus, the Exonerated 5, they're suing the Orange Man for defamation. We'll talk to one of the attorneys who filed the lawsuit, and the only Louisiana State Trooper who contributed to Ronald Greene's death has pled guilty. We'll talk to Ronald Greene's mother about that decision. Y'all, lots to talk about. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's rolling Martin, yeah. Rolling with rolling now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's rolling Martin now.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right. Very good. I like it. I have other policies that I think it should be implemented as well. Like me personally, I think football should be all year round. Yeah. So many great athletes. I don't know about you.
That's Texas comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. Trust me, he set off a furor yesterday as a result of those comments made at Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. Now, the Trump campaign released a statement disavowing the comments, but then news stories came out today saying multiple sources say that his comments were indeed vetted by the campaign. He actually planned to call Vice President Kamala Harris the C word, four-letter word, but they struck that. But they left in the comments about blacks and watermelons and Puerto Ricans as well. Well, folks, social media blew up instantly. Folks like Bad Bunny, as J-Lo, Ricky Martin, they posted comments of their Instagram and Twitter following exceeding more than 100 million folks. Bunny announced that he was endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris. It was just a furious response. People were commenting left and right. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took to social media to criticize Hinchcliffe. You also had so many others as well. You had Republicans in Florida where you have 1.1 million Puerto Ricans. Man, they were sitting here running backwards trying to disavow the comments. You had Senator Rick Scott. You had a member of Congress. You had, of course, Senator Marco Rubio. I mean, it was over and over and over again. And the Harris campaign, they wasted no time. Now, mind you, when the comments were made, she was actually visiting a Puerto Rican restaurant in Pennsylvania. There are 500,000 Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. Earlier in the day, she also had released her agenda for Puerto Rico. Her campaign today dropped this ad. All right, let's get that ad ready. Again, they wasted no time jumping on this. When you talk about a very, very close race, this is what you're dealing with right now, folks. This could be the difference when you talk about the margins. Do we have it? Let's go.
A floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
I will never forget what Donald Trump did. He abandoned the island and offered nothing more than paper towels and insults. Puerto Ricans deserve better. As president, I will always fight for you and your families, and together we can chart a new way forward.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Joining us now is Florida Congressman Darren Soto. Glad to have you on the show. So the Trump folks say, the comedian said, what's y'all problem? Y'all can't take a joke.
Well, you have to understand the context. We saw with Hurricane Maria, over 2,000 Puerto Ricans die from the hurricane. Power was out for 7+ months. We also passed $42 billion in relief for the island, and Trump blocked it for years. And so, you know, this just poured salt in a wound that's been around for a while. It seems like some folks started forgetting, and then with this hate rally yesterday, it just stared all of us in the face. And I could tell you the 1.2 million Florida Ricans here in the Sunshine State are angry, and we had a huge press conference this morning. We're hearing from different folks from my office and, of course, New York, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, also areas where there's a lot of us.
I mean, you're right. It was furious, the reaction, and what not just Puerto Ricans, but other Latinos as well, angry with those particular comments, as well as other speakers at that rally.
Absolutely. And, you know, we had Venezuelans standing by us today. We had Cubans and others. And, you know, in this state, you see a lot of people trying to disavow it, but Donald Trump put together this forum. He brought these people together. Now we're learning that they even vetted those remarks ahead of time. This is what happens. And in the home stretch, this was a great spark to remind Boricuas that we need to support Kamala Harris, who actually has a plan to help the island get back to prosperity and to help with disaster relief versus just hate coming from the other side.
It was so many. I mean, again, when you saw the reaction, I thought was interesting. And then you had folks like Geraldo Rivera, who earlier, of course, he had announced that he was not going to vote for his longtime friend, Donald Trump. He was going to support Vice President Kamala Harris. In the aftermath, he released this tweet. He said, a floating island of garbage, referring to Puerto Rico, poisoning the blood of our nation. We have murder in our genes. He says, F these racists. Latino men of goodwill. Have pride in yourselves and your ancestors. A vote for Trump is a vote against self-respect.
Well, it's not surprising that Geraldo came to our defense finally. And of course, J-Lo came out about this as well, Mark Anthony last week. But look out for Bad Bunny, the person who was most Spotified over the last 2-3 years as an artist, with hundreds of millions of followers, who was staying on the sidelines, focusing more on Puerto Rico itself. And this really hit the bee's nest. And we know young people of color, including in the Hispanic community, are key folks to get out to put Kamala over the top. And we're hopeful this is going to be motivating.
Again, we start talking about numbers here. 1.1 million in Florida. You already had the attack on Haitians at 400,000 in Florida. Some 500,000 in Pennsylvania. You've got, 50 to 65,000, 100,000 in North Carolina. You've got Puerto Ricans in Wisconsin and Michigan as well. And I would think that the group chats and the text groups have been on fire for the past 24 hours.
Well, no doubt. And look, our girl Kamala, she's of Jamaican descent. Never underestimate that Caribbean background and how important it plays in our state. When we talk with folks in the Haitian community, including Miss Phyllis McCormick, my colleague from South Florida, they are animated about it. Obviously, the Puerto Rican community is animated about it, Dominican community, and then broader colleagues in the Venezuelan and Colombian community showed up in force today as well. So we know in our state it'll keep it close because people are animated, and we're really excited about seeing a Caribbean woman at the top of the ticket.
And the thing that people need to understand is that this is not the first time. This is exactly who they are. This is what his rallies have always been about. And what they chose to do was to put everybody in one bucket and just go at it.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the playing of Dixie before one of my colleagues here in Florida as he came on, Representative Donalds, and then, of course, just despicable stereotypes about the Hispanic community generally, as well as the African-American community. You know, is this really the closing argument to seal the deal for Trump to win? You know, it's blown up in their faces, and it was foreseeable from the get-go. This was heralded as a parallel to a 1930-something rally of Nazis back in the day at Madison Square Garden. So just another bizarre page in the Trump campaign as we get to closing arguments. And meanwhile, Kamala Harris is going to swing states over and over and over. She's going to be making her case at the ellipsis right before the election day. And so we see them doing all the right things to let the American people know she's got a plan for the economy. She's got a plan for civil rights, for the environment. She is going to be our defender of democracy. And when you contrast it against the other guys, it's all hate and name calling.
Well, how about this here? J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate, U.S. Senator from Ohio, he said, we have to stop getting so offended when asked about the joke. He said, maybe it's a stupid racist joke and maybe it's not. He then said, our country was built by frontiersmen who conquered the wilderness. We're not going to restore the greatness of America's civilization if we get offended at every little thing. Let's have a sense of humor. Let's have a little fun.
Yeah, sure. Just like he takes a joke real well. We've seen him blow up. But look, this is the Trump two-step. They float out a racist joke or a racist comment to rile up their base, and then they come out with some hollow apology or why are you offended by that? And it's all just to try to placate just enough folks to join with his base to try to win. But it's all about, from the beginning, leading with discrimination, leading with division, leading with hate. And that's the big issue. And when you look at that compared to the history of what Puerto Rico and we Puerto Ricans in the mainland have been through with Hurricane Maria and with all these different attacks. We've seen Trump even try to trade Puerto Rico for Greenland, just bizarre stuff that just tacks on to this history.
Well, absolutely. And I just think that it's important for people to understand when you have Stephen Miller saying up there, you know, America's for Americans, as if America didn't have immigrants to start with. I mean, there is no America without immigrants. There is no America, and I'm going to deal with Dr. Phil in a second by saying, oh, America was built with hard work, not DEI. I think it was also built by a hell of a lot of work and some free labor, people of African descent who were enslaved.
No doubt about it. And we see the parallels between some of the Nazi comments of Goebbels and some others with Stephen Miller. They line up almost perfectly. Germans are for Germany. Americans are America's for Americans. The opposition is vermin, non-human. These are all the telltale signs of fascism. And in our history, there's been just enough Americans that do the right thing to finally bring our country forward in many instances, whether it was the Civil War, whether it was during World War II, and now we're going to have to rise together again, just like we did in 2020, to avoid a fascist future for our nation.
Well, absolutely right, and it's all about getting the vote out. I was seeing a story earlier in Politico, and it said for Puerto Ricans, this is our October surprise. They were talking about what was being discussed on radio all day, and this person, this individual here, give me 1 second, Victor Martinez, who's on Spanish language radio in Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. He said he's of Puerto Rican descent. He said, for Puerto Ricans, this is our October surprise. This is a gift with a bow from the Trump campaign. This is what we needed to energize the Puerto Rican community, remind the Puerto Rican community of who he is.
There's no question. Victor knows our community. He lived in Central Florida. He covered now events in Pennsylvania, we know, in Philadelphia, and in East Pennsylvania. There's nearly 500,000 Puerto Ricans in that big swing state, in addition to well over 1 million folks here. And look, there was an attempt to try to turn the page by Trump on Hurricane Maria, which astounds me that anybody could feel that way. But as we're going through all these debates, there could have been a little bit of a malaise that this just strikes through with a lightning bolt because it was unprovoked. There was no reason to say this. It was a window into their soul, how they view us, what they believe about us, and they were trying to laugh at us, and they're about to see the full voting power of a nearly 6 million person Puerto Rico diaspora spanning Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, as well as some in Ohio as well.
Well, indeed. Well, look, it's a week to go. We'll see how this turns out when it comes to early voting, also Election Day. And I certainly hope Puerto Ricans in this country go to the polls in massive numbers in Pennsylvania and Florida until Donald Trump and MAGA. Okay, you want to offend us? Well, guess what? We're going to give you the boot and hang these L's on you, not only for him, but also these congressional and Senate candidates who also stand with Donald Trump.
And we're looking forward to marching hand in hand to the polls and getting our Caribbean sister, Kamala Harris, over the finish line for the good of the nation.
All right, Congressman Soto, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland.
Folks, it has been, again, just a fierce reaction from all across the country. And then, of course, you got folks like, right-winger nutcase Matt Walsh, who said, oh, this is just perfect for Trump. He's got the Democrats focusing on race in the final week. No. What's happening is the vice president tomorrow is going to be on the ellipse, the same place where Donald Trump led the January 6, 2021 insurrection, talking about democracy. And trust me, this is going to be a part of that story as well. I'm going to go to a break. We come back. We're going to play for you what President Obama had to say last night on the Win with Black Men call about this particular rally. We'll also have some other comments as well. Plus, Lindsey Graham. Did he show his ass on ABC yesterday or what? Sounded like a complete fool. Oh, I can't wait to play you for that. Plus, the vice president sits down at Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp. We got some of that as well. Lots to break down for you right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Trump ain't shit.
Did you know that Trump wanted the military to actually shoot Black Lives Matter protesters? I mean, Trump is not shit.
He let people die during COVID and then told us to drink bleach.
He tried to kill the stimulus bill and couldn't, so he delayed the money just so he could put his name on the check.
Trump ain't shit.
He used the death penalty to execute black men like Brandon Bernard.
He f***ed Obama's economy, lost thousands of black jobs. He started inflation and gave his billionaire buddies a tax cut.
America, Trump ain't shit. Don't vote for that man. He's nothing but
Dealers season tickets since I'm 7 years old, man. Me and my dad, that's our thing.
Here we go, Sterling. Here we go. Kick it.
I was a 7-year-old with a little mullet, just like a Pittsburgher should have, with a Cordell Stewart jersey on, sitting at Three Rivers Stadium watching in 1995. A Yinzer, I'd define it as somebody that bleeds black and gold, works hard, cares about their family and their hometown. Donald Trump does not care about the working man whatsoever. This guy's not looking out for my family. Talking about giving tax breaks to billionaires, and he's gonna sell out working families to pay for it. Cut our health care. Cut our Social Security. He's a little rich kid, too. He ain't me. Little silver spoon boy Donald Trump. How is he relatable to me whatsoever? The guy literally lives in a country club. Do I look like a country club kind of guy?
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Philly Tough is different. They insult us.
Bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things.
They don't like us. We don't care. Because here's the thing that people like Donald Trump don't understand. We're Philly. F***ing Philly. And when you fight us, we fight back. From 1776 to 4th and 26th. So go ahead, talk whatever you want, Donald. We're voting soon. And when it comes to freedom, Philly's undefeated.
Daddy, what's mommy's come home?
How am I supposed to tell him?
Kamala Harris has never backed down from a challenge. She put cartel members and drug traffickers behind bars, and she will secure our border. Here's her plan: hire thousands more border agents, enforce the law and step up technology, and stop fentanyl smuggling and human trafficking. We need a leader with a real plan to fix the border, and that's Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
All right, folks, let's get right to it with our panel. I know they got lots to say. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College, author, joining us from D.C. Dr. Amakongo Dibinga, senior professorial lecturer, School of International Service, American University, out of D.C. Rena Shannon, former Georgia State representative out of Atlanta. Glad to have all three of you here. Boy, Renita, I'll start with you. Boy, that fascist rally lived up to the billing.
Amazing to me that Trump would try to distance himself from the comments that the comedian made about Latinos, or about Puerto Rico specifically, considering that's the way he started his campaign in 2015. He came down the escalator, and at that time he was talking about Mexicans and how they were all of the reason of all of the problems of America. And so that kind of brings you to my second point, which is that there are folks in the crowd, folks of color of all different backgrounds, who see themselves in this campaign, and they don't understand that Trump sees all of you the same way. These folks who are there, who are part of these identities that the comedian attacked, think that Trump just doesn't like the other folks, who he just doesn't like the Puerto Ricans, but he's good with my crowd. And at the end of the day, he sees all of them the same. The other thing that I would also bring up is that, you know, this has been going on for such a long time with Republicans. I grew up in Central Florida, and I saw how Republicans would, one by one, long before Trump was ever even thought of in politics, divide Latinos within the state. they would consider the Latinos in the South, who in South Florida, who would largely elect them, the Cubans to be the ones who were the good Latinos, and then in Central Florida, the Puerto Ricans to be the bad ones because it mostly went Democratic. And so this is a long-standing shell game that Trump has been running for so long, and I just hate that people continue to fall for it. Because I'll tell you this, when I've heard Trump make comments about Black immigrants, I know that he may be speaking about Black immigrants and Black and countries that Black immigrants come from at the time, but I know that he sees regular, everyday African Americans the same way he sees those Black immigrants. It's all connected.
Listen, Congo, they are who they are. They are racist, they are bigots, they are white nationalists. He wants to deport 11, 12 million people. He doesn't care if you've got 4 to 5 million families that have children and they sort of split between somebody who's legal and somebody who is not. They don't care. This is all about their white nationalism. They are hell-bent on touting the Great Replacement theory. They want to maintain the whiteness of America. Like I said in my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. They are scared to death of this country becoming black and brown.
And look, at the end of the day, people really need to realize what Renita said is so true about how they are coming for everybody. And as happy as I am to see what Bad Bunny and other folks have done in terms of supporting Kamala yesterday, I also get frustrated because at the same time, like, my parents are Congolese. I didn't need to wait for Donald Trump to come out and diss the Congo as he's been doing as of late before I realized he was a racist, homophobic, misogynist, Islamophobic, ignorant individual. When I saw him come for Mexicans, when I saw him do what he did with us African Americans at the Central Park 5, the Exonerated 5, what I've seen him do with Jewish people needing to have their head examined. And even at this event, the comedian said that, Jewish Israelis and Palestinians should just do rock, paper, scissors because, Palestinians are going to throw rocks and Jewish people aren't going to want to throw that paper. So it's like he had the anti-Semitism there as well. And so I'm hoping that for those of us who haven't been galvanized because he hasn't spoken about us yet, whether you're South Korean or Brazilian American, whatever it is, realize this now. Don't wait till you get name-checked by Donald Trump and his people before you get activated. That's how these wannabe dictators get over. People who are dictators across the world, and what Trump is trying to do now as well. So as we go into this final stretch of in the next week, this is really time for everybody to really see what's on the line right now, because if we don't see it now, we never will. That was a 1939 Nazi replication march. He got everything he wanted. You had Stephen Miller saying, America for the Americans, but yet Donald Trump's wife is right there. And of course, but she's white, so that matters, right? That makes a difference. Of course, Donald Trump said, I could be on the beach with my white skin. I mean, they're throwing it all out there. They don't care right now. The question is, are we going to fight more and be more energized to fight to save this democratic experiment than we are going to be afraid of Trump and his dictatorship? That's what we're going to find out in a week, Roland.
Well, Julian, the folks at the Bulwark report that 4 different Trump campaign sources say they approved of the remarks by this comedian. He actually had planned to call, I'm only going to say this because what they're quoting, he planned to call Kamala Harris a cunt. But the campaign pushed back on that. Campaign staffers say that all speakers had to submit drafts of their speech before it would load it into the teleprompter. And they forced him to remove the C word, but nothing else. I mean, so this notion that, somehow they were offended. No, they weren't. They accepted this. They knew exactly what he was going to say. They approved of it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is so absurd, Roland, at any number of levels. We're not going to talk about the C word. Trump and all of his colleagues are coarse, unlettered, ignorant MX. I mean, just coarse, unlettered, ignorant. And to talk to a woman of the vice president's stature or to refer to her in that manner is beneath anything that we can really think about. But now let's talk about the island garbage or Mr. Trump has systematically exhibited his disregard for people who are other, be they disabled, be they are differently abled. be they women, be they Black, GBLTQIA, Latino. We know what he has done. The throwing of the paper towels in Puerto Rico, back when that hurricane occurred, that had to be like a very low blow, but this is an even lower one. And I'm glad you shared the information about the teleprompter, because you and I and many of us who cover these things know you don't just get to run your mouth. I mean, he can run his, but most people have to submit their comments. And so the submission passed muster because this is who Mr. Trump is. What has to happen? And we got a week. We've got a week. I don't know who gets swayed and who doesn't. I just saw some polling information that said that Latinos, I think it was 51 or 2% for him and 40-some percent, 47, 48 for the vice president. Seriously, y'all? Seriously? But the fact is that it's not just that community. We hear from some Black people. We hear from some, Asian Americans. Matthew Brown, who's been covering for Politico, has written about Native Americans and others. And in each of these communities, you get a slice of people who say they prefer that man. And I just want to know, is your self-hate that deep?
Yeah.
And then just for a minute.
It is. I mean, it is. No. I got to pull this up because, again, I don't want to talk about this the whole time. Today, the vice president was all over media. She talked to Dee Dee in the mornings. She taped an interview with the Breakfast Club, airing tomorrow. She sat down with Shannon Sharp with Club Shay Shay on Friday. That's airing. That which aired today. It dropped at midnight. The audio podcast dropped on YouTube around noon. Here are a couple of things that she said in that interview.
Blacks for Trump. Mm-hmm. They feel that Trump is better for the Black community. Can you explain Donald Trump's history with Blacks? Where did this come that all of a sudden, I mean, it's been like this because a lot of people used to say, I'm Donald Trump of the ghetto, because he was, for a lot of Blacks, not all, but for some Blacks, he was, Madam VP, whether we want to admit it or not, he's revered by some Blacks.
But here's the thing. The question for everybody, should he be president of the United States?
Okay.
Right? That's the question. Should he have the ability to sit behind the seal of the president of the United States when he says he wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States? You know what that would mean? In the Constitution of the United States is your Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure. Your Fifth Amendment right, your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney.
Well, a lot of rights going to be gone. The First Amendment.
But the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Yes. Look, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I don't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away. He wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States. He is the same one, like I said earlier, who denied rent to Black families, who took out that full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of those children, who birtherism accusations against the first Black president. Not to mention please ask folks to Google Project 2025.
Yeah.
He would get rid of the $35 a month cap on insulin. We know how many of our seniors had it. I'll give you another example of why Donald Trump has not earned the support of folks to be president of the United States again. When he was president the last time, during the height of COVID, 1 in 3 Black Americans knew somebody who died from COVID. You remember those days?
I do.
And people couldn't get their hands on a COVID test? At that very same time, Donald Trump as president secretly sent COVID tests to the president of Russia for his personal use. While Americans were dying every day, he has not earned the right to be president of the United States. It's one thing if he has a television show that's very popular. He can put his name on a building, even though we all know he was not a terribly good businessman, which is why he filed for bankruptcy 6 times. But that is one thing. To be president of the United States means to try and find common ground, to build consensus, to lift up the American people instead of trying to beat people down all the time. It means solving problems, which means you have to be able to get out of your own head and scan to be concerned about the well-being of other people and then do something about it. Does anyone think Donald Trump thinks that way?
Yeah, well, empathy requires you to divorce your own ego to see yourself as someone else.
That's exactly right. And we know that's not his character. So it's about, is this the right person for that job?
And she's absolutely right. Now, last night on our Win with Black Men call, President Barack Obama joined us on the call. He talked about the importance of voting in this election and also broke down the issues that also should matter. Here's some of that conversation. Actually, wait 1 second. Let me go.
Second thing I hear folks say.
Yeah, go ahead.
During the pandemic, Trump sent us a check. You know what? First of all, it was Congress and Democrats and Republicans who sent you a check. Just like Joe Biden, working with Congress, sent you a check during the pandemic, emergency relief, just like I sent emergency relief to people during the Great Recession when I first came into office. The difference is that Joe Biden and I did not put our names on the check. So do not think that somehow because you got a check from Donald Trump, quote unquote, during the pandemic, that somehow that's something special that he did, and that justifies you giving him his vote. So that's the second thing I hear. And then the third thing that I've been hearing from a lot of guys I talk to is, well, what does it matter? You know, because the Democratic Party and Republican Party, it doesn't make any difference. Things don't change in my neighborhood. People are still getting shot. People still don't have jobs. There's still disinvestment. And I have to remind folks that, you know, politics is not going to change everything. Sometimes we overhype it. Certainly we overhyped it when I got elected. People talked about, well, you know, there's a sign that racism is gone. He's going to help make sure that there's no more poverty in America. That no president has that power. What a president can do is make things better or make things worse. They can't solve every problem. And so when I was president, we made sure that people who didn't have health care had a chance to get health care. Now 50 million people have the Affordable Care Act. And as a consequence, there are a whole bunch of people who previously, if they got sick, were out of luck, might have lost their home, might have lost everything they had, all their savings just to try to get treatment. Now they can purchase cheap, affordable, and high quality health care in ways they couldn't do that before. 50 million people, 50 million more people, if they've got pre-existing conditions, can now obtain insurance and previously would not have been able to obtain insurance. That didn't solve the entire healthcare problem, but it made things better for a whole lot of folks. Everybody who's listening today, you know somebody who's got health insurance because of what we did. So in the same way that Obamacare made a difference, what Kamala and Joe Biden did on making insulin cheaper, capping the cost at $35 or 50 prescription drugs, capping that because now the government's negotiating prices. That means your grandmother, your father, your mother are able to afford health insurance or afford prescription drugs that they might not have otherwise been able to obtain. And they're better for it. Their lives have improved. It didn't solve all the problems in the healthcare system, but it made things better. And that's how politics works. The flip side is it can make things, a bad president can make things worse. I mentioned the pandemic and COVID. America had a 60% worse death rate than Canada. And over 1 million people died in America. So about 600,000 people died disproportionately, by the way, African-American or Latino, that didn't necessarily need to die if we had had a better response. And I put together a playbook for how to deal with pandemics 3 years before the pandemic happened. And I handed it over to Donald Trump. And he basically ignored it. And when the pandemic come, when the pandemic showed up, because he had not followed the plan, not prepared agencies, he was just winging it and ended up saying crazy stuff about injecting bleach as a cure for COVID. COVID would have been a problem for any president, but making it better would have saved lives. Donald Trump did not, and those lives, somebody passed away as a consequence of a poor response to that crisis coming out of the White House. So the point I'm trying to make, I guess, is this. When you are talking to people who say politics don't matter, concede to them, acknowledge to them, yeah, it's not going to solve every problem, but it can make a difference in terms of our schools a little bit better funded. Are there more Pell Grants out there to make college a little bit more affordable? Are we going to maintain the progress that we've made and build on it when it comes to making sure our communities have health care, preventive care, checkups? And as Michelle talked about yesterday, are we going to make sure that our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, that they have access to basic reproductive health care that is so vital to them? And we're already seeing an increase in infant mortality since the Trump abortion ban got adopted essentially in 20 states. I will close with this. You know, we don't have what's called direct democracy. You know, we don't vote on everything. We vote for people to then represent our interests, and a president is supposed to represent all the people, and you know, has got a million decisions that will come before him or her. And we can't know all facets of the government and all the decisions that are being made on a daily basis. So what we count on is electing somebody who's got the values and the character to do the job, the competence to do the job. And what we also count on is, do they see us? Do they care about us? Is this somebody who understands how I live and what my hopes and dreams and aspirations are? And Kamala Harris does. You know, she grew up middle class. She went to an HBCU. She understands what our communities go through, the struggles, having to work a little bit harder to get ahead, having to put up with stuff that, you know, hopefully in the future, our children and grandchildren won't have to put up with. And in contrast, Donald Trump has shown utter disrespect and disregard for our communities, and for Black men specifically, throughout his career. I mean, this is somebody who took out a full-page ad calling on the Central Park Five to be put to death. Somebody whose family made money not renting to Black people, and was taken to court by the government because they didn't want to rent to Black people. That's what he has displayed. Remember, he came into politics most recently by suggesting I was not born in the United States. I mean, that wasn't subtle. He was sending a message that real Americans are different from y'all. And the one thing I know is that you can't have somebody representing you who doesn't see you and respect you and is not going to have your experience, your concerns in mind as they're making these decisions. So, look, bottom line is, if over the next few days, and we only have a few days left, you are reaching out to people who are suggesting that this doesn't matter, or heaven forbid, are thinking that somehow Donald Trump has the answers to what ails our communities, it's going to be your task to educate them, because a lot of them are basing what they are thinking about this race on what they're seeing on TikTok. And I don't have the capacity to reach them. Even if they like me, they may not hear what I've got to say, or they may think, man, his life is so different that he can't relate to where I'm at. The most credible messengers for this campaign in these closing days, hours, minutes is going to be all of you. You talking to your friends, relatives, people in your communities, your coworkers, your ability to speak to them in real talk about what's at stake and why this is so important is going to make all the difference. And if you all do that, I promise you, Kamala Harris is going to be the next president of the United States, and we can build on the progress we've already made and look forward to a much brighter future. So I appreciate all of you. And thank you for the extraordinary work you guys are doing. I'm proud of you.
President Obama, can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
You talked about when you came in, the crisis that we were in, it was because of the housing crisis. I mean, it was 53% of Black wealth was wiped out. And you tried to deal with that, and we didn't build a lot of homes, frankly, between 2010 and 2019. Can you talk about why her plan to build 3 million new homes is so important to deal with the housing price of rent, things like that?
It's vitally important. We never fully recovered from what happened in 2008, 2009, because not only did the housing market collapse and suddenly all kinds of mortgages were underwater and prices plunged, but essentially developers said, we're not going to go take the risk of building new housing. And so they pulled back. There was a lot of excess inventory. And what they started getting comfortable with was the idea of just building luxury housing that was for the people who still had a lot of cash, and not building a lot of affordable housing. And look, there's some work that we need to do, and Kamala is committed to doing this work, not just to financing the construction of new homes, but also making sure we get rid of some of the red tape and regulations, even in democratically controlled cities, that say, all right, we're zoning so that it has to be single family homes as opposed to multifamily units, which are cheaper, but provide people the ability to get a foothold into the housing market. She's got a concrete plan. It is a sound plan. Again, I want to make sure that we don't overhype this. She's not going to immediately, or even in one term, reverse all the problems that we've seen building up in the housing markets over the last decade. But she's going to make a substantial dent. And that is the kind of initiatives that we're going to need to make in order for our communities to have the same opportunity for owning their own home and building and accumulating wealth as other communities are able to do.
You also had to grapple with issues dealing with police and shootings, and you talked about Donald Trump's record. I mean, here's somebody who is openly saying he wants to give police 100% immunity. He wants to bring back stop and frisk, and he wants to let cops loose for a week that he says will fix all the problems. That should be dangerous to any Black man out there, whether you are low income, working class, middle class, upper income. That's scary.
Well, you remember what was Stevie Wonder's song? You can't cash in your face. So, that's something that impacts everybody. And again, most criminal law is dealt with at the state levels. The vast majority of people who are incarcerated under state law. Federal government accounts for maybe, let's say, 10% of criminal law. But when I was president, for example, Eric Holder was my attorney general. And after discussions with Eric, one of the things he did was to change policy inside the Justice Department to send a message to attorney generals: you will not be rewarded simply for getting the maximum sentence on nonviolent drug offenses. you will be rewarded for getting the fair and proportional sentence. And that was a system-wide change in policy. And it's one of the reasons why, during the course of my presidency, we saw a drop in the federal prison population at the same time as we saw a drop in crime, right? So the president can set a tone. And the tone I tried to set was not to say that police were somehow always wrong. The vast majority of police are trying to do a tough job. And a lot of our communities are under-policed and need more police, but they need police that are partners with the community, that know the local businesses, that know parents, know the schools, know the kids, can distinguish between somebody who is actually trying to create a danger for that community and a kid who's just wearing a hoodie. And, you know, there are a whole range of strategies in which the federal government can work with state and local and municipal governments to try to continue to improve the building of trust between our communities and police departments, to help make sure that there's funding there to train police so that they can do a job that will keep them safe, as well as make sure that everybody is focused on stopping crime and not just resorting to stereotypes. That can be done, but it's sure not going to be done by Donald Trump. It's going to be done by somebody like Kamala Harris, who has experience as a prosecutor, but also understands that our criminal justice system works best and our communities are safest when people can reliably count on making sure that the criminal justice system is not subject to any kind of racial bias. And that's a big task. We're not going to do it, again, in the first year or 2 or 5, but we can get started moving on the right direction. So listen, I just want to thank everybody who's been involved. Roland, I appreciate you, man. Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, Michael. Quinn, everybody who's been involved, everybody who's out there,
All right, folks, if you missed that call last night, simply go to our Black Star Network app or go to our YouTube channel and you can check it out as well. Going to a break, we come back. We got lots more to talk about on the show. You got a Kamala Harris rally happening live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're going to go live there. You can check it out right now. You can see that right there. We're going to talk about the case of the cop who pled guilty in the case of Ronald Green. We're going to talk about that. It's a lot we got to break down, folks. We are 8 days away from Election Day. Don't forget, it's critically important for you to vote. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Trump ain't shit.
Did you know that Trump wanted the military to actually shoot Black Lives Matter protesters? I mean, Trump is not shit.
He let people die during COVID and then told us to drink bleach.
He tried to kill the stimulus bill and couldn't, so he delayed the money just so he could put his name on the check.
Trump ain't shit.
He used the death penalty to execute black men like Brandon Bernard.
He f***ed Obama's economy, lost thousands of black jobs. He started inflation and gave his billionaire buddies a tax cut.
America, Trump ain't shit. Don't vote for that man. He's nothing but
Vote Kamala Harris for president.
Disastrous, alarming, a plan that shreds American values. That's what independent news sources and conservatives are saying about a proposal from right-wing extremists called Project 2025. It would threaten hundreds of thousands of jobs created by the Clean Energy Plan, give massive tax breaks to big oil, and roll back protections that keep corporations from poisoning our water with toxic chemicals. Project 2025, a dream for them, a disaster for you.
The overturning of Roe almost killed me. I had a blood clot in my uterus that caused my labor to have to be induced because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I wasn't able to get life-saving treatment sooner. I almost died. And that's because of the decision that Donald Trump made.
I was able to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I'm proud to have done it.
The doctors and nurses were afraid that if they treated me in the incorrect way, that they would be prosecuted for that. And that's appalling. Donald Trump says that women should be punished.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? There has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah.
I believe that women should have reproductive freedom to make the choices about their own bodies. 4 more years of Donald Trump means that women's rights will continue to be taken away one by one by one by one. This has to stop because women are dying.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family, louder and prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Donald Trump has consistently trashed the Exonerated Five, formerly known as Central Park Five. Remember, he took a full-page ad out in the newspaper calling for them to get the death penalty. In the last election, he stood with his comments that they were involved and were guilty of the rape, of the 1989 rape and assault of a woman jogging in Central Park. They spent years in prison before their convictions were overturned in 2002. And the actual person was, of course, arrested. Now, during a recent debate, Donald Trump, well, he decided to remark about this case again.
Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty.
Well, the 5 members never pled guilty. The victim wasn't killed, and they are now suing him for defamation. Joining us from Philadelphia is Alex Van Dyke, one of the attorneys for the Exonerated Five. Alex, glad to have you here. I mean, the bottom line is he's lying. He's consistently lied over and over and over again, and y'all are saying, okay, you keep lying, time for you to pay up, Donald.
Well, first of all, good to be with you. That about sums it up. Mr. Trump has a long history of making false statements about these men. Not only is he drudging it up now in the middle of a heated political campaign in front of 67 million Americans who watched that debate on September 10th, but he's also adding new falsehoods to his repertoire, including that the men pled guilty, which, as you noted, is completely untrue, and that they killed an individual when, in fact, nobody was killed during the Central Park assault. And, of course, all 5 men have been conclusively exonerated, and that's been true for over 20 years now.
With that, first and foremost, walk folks through what defamation is and why you believe y'all have a strong case.
Sure, absolutely. So defamation is essentially the civil lawsuit that somebody can bring when they have been lied about, when somebody makes false statements about you and it harms you. Either it causes you emotional distress or it causes you harm to your reputation. You can bring a lawsuit. And if you can show that the individual acted, depending on the case, negligently, recklessly, or with knowing disregard, then they are liable for the harm that you suffer from their falsehoods. Now, in this case, it's been clear, dating back decades, that Mr. Trump knows that what he's saying is false. He's familiar with this case. He's been familiar with it from the beginning, and he is knowingly spreading falsehoods about these men, and that is defamatory.
Has there been any response thus far from Trump or his lawyers to the lawsuit?
From Trump's lawyers, there has been no response. As soon as we filed it last Monday, an individual from his campaign, a campaign spokesperson, came out, and we found that to be very unfortunate that he chose to have a campaign spokesperson respond rather than an attorney. Really, this is a civil lawsuit. This is not a political stunt. He should have his attorney come out and answer these charges. Is what he said true or not true?
Absolutely. Well, just like E. Jean Carroll, got to have his day in court, and I can't wait till he has to answer to this for all of the lies that he has publicly told, and he has lied repeatedly about the Exonerated Five.
Absolutely, and we are looking forward to our day in court.
All right, Alex, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, Congo, I cannot wait till all of a sudden he got to face the jury, go to court. They're gonna be like, oh, lies, show the lies, show the lies, show the lies, show the lies, and he gotta answer to all them lies.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a great day, and it's going to happen. And just like the attorney said, to have the campaign spokesperson report, I mean, they show such cowardice. And look, this is something that Trump is never going to admit to being wrong about. I remember a few years ago when he was confronted about this. I think it was in the 2016 debate or around that time, whatever. He said, oh, okay, if they didn't do it, what do you think they were doing at that time? Playing chess? Like, he never cared about the lives of these individuals. And we were talking about Puerto Rico. You know, one of these brothers is Hispanic as well. So it's just like, once again, he's always had a history of targeting Black and Hispanic people. These brothers need to go after him for everything they can actually get from him. You know, having watched this and having lived through this, you know, from an outsider's perspective, the way they destroyed those men's lives, young boys at the time, that was traumatic for our entire community across the country. And so many of us have never forgotten that. And so the fact that now that he is a convicted felon and these brothers are walking free and able to live their lives and they've been able to put together, you know, their lives after they were actually destroyed, this is something that I hope is televised. It probably won't be, but this is something that needs to happen, and it needs to happen sooner than later. So I hope the judge and the courts act very expeditiously in this, because these brothers have been defamed and continue to be defamed by Trump and his acolytes, and it has to stop.
Absolutely, and I can't wait till he has to pay up. And so he's going to lose next Tuesday, Julian, and guess what? We're going to see a lot of his ass in the courtroom.
Well, he got so many court cases pending. He's got to deal with his federal fraud charges. He's got to deal with election tampering. He's got so many things to deal with, and this is yet another. This one is really important, though, Roland. I remember vividly getting hate mail after I wrote a piece in USA Today when this happened. The term they were using was called wilding. So these young men theoretically were wilding through Central Park and, you know, abused this woman, etc. There was never any proof. And, you know, I wrote a little piece, you know, a little op-ed and said, well, where's the proof and why are you dealing with this? And my editor at the time said, we got a whole lot of hate mail here. I said, well, just keep it. I'll really need it. But like anything that has to do with race, people broke out racial lines. There were so many who were eager to believe that these brothers were guilty, and they were not. And now we know they're not, and Trump knows they're not, but he continues to defame them. Why? Because he can.
Well,
one of the reasons
and that's why he's going to cut that check.
He's going to cut that check. But you know what? People who are concerned about this, get your souls and everything else you have to the polls.
Yep.
I am so sick of talking to people who, I don't know if it makes a difference. Where have you been? Where have you been? Well, I hope that no one in the sound of my voice who has that nonsense on their mind. Not only do you need to go, you need to get some other people to go.
I'm a Congo.
Look, I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, when I look in those faces of those young pictures, I see myself. When I look in those pictures, at the pictures of the people who were in the crowds, one of them signs said, "There's nothing minor about this." I think it harkened back to the '60s and how those people look in terms of how they wanted to lynch us and destroy us. So many things have been repeated throughout history, and as Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. But this has to be the year of accountability, particularly for racists like Trump. And so I hope they get it with the Central Park 5, just like he got it with Agent Carroll, and let's hold him accountable next week at the polls as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't say any more, Renita. At the end of the day, this man is a thug. We know who he is. He gonna keep lying. He gonna keep making stuff up and pay up. Just like Rudy got to pay up. They just snatching all his stuff. And those two sisters in Georgia. Renita, I saw a photo. Somebody had a photo the other day of Rudy in a wheelchair. And they were like, Ruby and Shay, that wheelchair probably $200. Get that one too.
Get it. Yes, get it.
Get all of it.
Right. To piggyback from what Omakongo said, it's so true. Like the way that Trump has targeted Black folks with precision really harkens back to sort of a Jim Crow era of white supremacists who were determined to bring harm and death on Black folks simply because they are Black. And if you think about the time when he wrote that letter asking for the Central Park 5, the now exonerated 5, to get the death penalty and pretty much just convict them before there's ever been a trial or anything, bringing that type of hatred and targeting those Black men like that, you just know that that is how he feels about the entire community. So I'm going to say one final thing to piggyback also off of what Julian said. This really is connected to the election because the precision and the vulgarity that he attacks Black folks. What do you think that he will do as president? And we've already seen it once.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks. Got to go to a break. We come back. Man, this white man dropped this video speaking to other white men, and I got to show it to y'all. Also, there's some new ads that have come out as well. We got to show y'all as well. All of that next on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do, folks. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to travel this country, covering the stories that matter. We're going to be on the ellipse tomorrow, of course, covering the Vice President's speech there. I'll be live here in D.C. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196. Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Back in a moment.
4 years ago, Black unemployment was over 10%, and Trump told us to inject bleach. But when Biden and Harris got into office, they invested in America. They took on inflation and corporate price gouging. Now, last year, Black unemployment dropped below 5%, and Kamala's not stopping there. As president, she'll continue to take on corporate greed and put cash back in your pockets.
Yeah, I'm going to go after them.
Kamala has a plan to make our lives better. Vote Kamala Harris for president.
Winners never back down from a challenge. Champions know it's anytime, any place. But losers, they whine and waffle and take their ball home.
Trump now refusing to debate a second time.
He did terribly in the last debate. He's so easily triggered by Kamala Harris.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. If you've got something to say it to my face.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
In this town, we've seen our share of hard times, heard our share of big promises.
Up to 13,000 jobs.
But empty promises don't build cities.
Plans never materialize.
We do, with grit, sweat, and cold beer. So when he talks,
Former President Trump called Milwaukee a horrible city.
we know talk is all he's got. And this is what we've got.
Jill Stein, Green Party candidate for president. So why are Trump's close allies helping her? Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states. She's not sorry she helped Trump win. That's why a vote for Stein is really a vote for Trump.
Jill Stein, I like her very much. You know why? She takes 100% from them.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
This is Essence Atkins.
Mr. Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Man, y'all know I love a good petty ad, but also I love it when people speak truth to power. Well, we saw this video of a United Auto Worker, labor leader, and he was like, you know what, white folk, it's time for us to step up. Watch this.
My members are tired of people talking out of both sides of their mouth. We're ready for a party that puts in work for working people, puts in legwork for working people. And the WFP does that every single day. Every couple of years, it seems to me that we're asking black people to save this country. In the last election cycle, we asked black women in Georgia, please save us. In this election, we're saying, dear black men in the suburban counties outside of Philly, please save us. If we're gonna ask that every couple of years, it's a fair question to ask guys that look like me, start handling your boys. Start handling your boys. I look like I stormed the Capitol, but I did not. But I know a lot of guys who did, and fuck those guys. It's time for us to start calling these assholes out. The people that are threatening democracy are not black, they're not Muslim, they're not immigrants. It's dudes that look like me. We got to start calling these assholes out every single place that we find them, because fuck them. I believe in this country. I'm a veteran of this country. Waving a flag and screaming at immigrants don't make you a patriot. It makes you a fucking coward. This country, we are the true patriots because we don't hate everybody just because they're different. We got to get this. Listen, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, oh my God, Kamala, hooray. I'm voting for her. I'm not happy about what they're doing in Gaza, in Lebanon. I'm not happy about what's happening. I'm married to a Palestinian. I am not happy about this. But we have two choices between a woman that we can work with or a fascist.
Damn, I'm a Congo. He cut right to the chase, didn't he?
Right to the chase. I loved it. I saw it on your Instagram earlier today and shared it everywhere. This is what we're talking about. I mean, there was so much that he said, but the part about him talking about, look, I don't like what's going on in Palestine and so on and so forth. These guys are like, oh, she needs to be angelic. She needs to give me everything on a silver platter, and then maybe I'll think about voting for her. He's like, yo, we got to get her into office. You know, we can challenge. My wife's Palestinian. We can. That's what politics is about. And these people are like, well, I don't know her policies, don't want to go to the website because they don't want to read, or don't want to realize that they can push her in one particular way or the other. And then also his ability to talk about how every single person needs to take responsibility for themselves. And in the white community, that's a big issue in terms of will they actually show up for Kamala. People still don't know, but they're ready to blame black men regardless of what happens.
All right, folks. Lincoln Project, they dropped 2 ads. I love it when they're petty. Roll both of them.
You still voting for him?
Hell yeah.
What about your wife?
She doesn't like him, but she's voting for him.
Same with mine.
I love that ad, Renita, because I saw a story the other day, a white woman, 81 years old, her husband wouldn't let her vote. She said, well, he dead now, so now I'm voting.
Yeah, I saw that too. And you know what? I will wait and see what the election results are, because we've seen this story too many times before. And I'm still meeting white women here in Georgia who are saying they don't know if they can. They might want to give Trump another chance because they know him personally, and they just really, it's hard for them to believe that he is who they knew in the 90s. It's hard for them to believe that he is the person they see today. So we'll see. The ads are cute, but let's see the results.
Well, I'm seeing right now though, when it comes to poll, he was +9 with white women in 2016, +7. And according to existing polls, they are tied. So as you said, we shall see. All right, I love this petty ad for the Lincoln Project. Roll it.
Welcome to Mar-a-Lago Senior Living, a state-of-the-art senior facility located on the coast of Florida. If the senior in your life is getting exhausted, it might be time for a change. Here at Mar-a-Lago Senior Living, we care for even the most particular residents.
My teleprompter people doing a great job. As are Asians.
Even the ones who still feel young at heart.
And I'm not 80, and I'm not that close to 80. Put on Pavarotti singing Ave Maria.
Many residents find their favorite music comforting. If the senior in your life tends to wander off, our round-the-clock care has you covered. Mar-a-Lago Senior Living. Watch the Florida sunset while you sundown.
All right, Julian, that was pretty funny.
That's very funny, and it's very apt. It's right on time. I mean, the man does look like he needs to be institutionalized somewhere, either in a senior living facility or perhaps in a mental institution, not to disparage anybody's mental acuity. But, you know, the Lincoln Project is funny. They are Republicans. but they have a great sense of humor, and they also know how to poke it at the orange man.
Yep.
And so we just have to applaud them. That's all. Just applaud them and say, yeah, y'all, we like it.
Well, they also know how to put together great ads. All right, my man Don Winslow, the book author, he is dropping a new video every day between now and the election. This is the one he dropped today.
For more than 200 years, one thing has never changed. It's always been a man. Until now. It's time. Embrace hope. Kamala 2024.
Don Winslow does not accept donations, but we would be grateful for your retweet.
All right, Julianne, you were clapping on that one.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's overtime for a woman to be president. Not only that, not any woman, but I think that Kamala Harris is uniquely qualified in so many ways. Former Attorney General, former Senator, just uniquely qualified.
Yep.
I don't understand the resistance that comes from some people. What I will say to them is just, shame y'all. Go look into your heart and say, as somebody said, do you want a felon or someone who is looking forward? Those are your choices.
All right, folks, Republican voters against Donald Trump, they dropped this one, and this is one of the folks who used to work for Donald Trump. Watch this.
My name is Sarah Matthews. I was the Deputy Press Secretary in Donald Trump's administration. On January 6th, Donald Trump was told that his Vice President, Mike Pence, who was there with his family, needed to be moved to a secure location. And what was Donald Trump's response? He said, so what? If Donald Trump didn't care about his own vice president's life being in danger, what makes you think he cares about you? This is a man of the lowest moral character who lacks total empathy for anyone other than himself. This is why that nearly half of his cabinet isn't supporting him, including his own vice president, Secretary of Defense, his longest-serving chief of staff, and the list goes on, because we all saw firsthand how unfit he is. And I know that Kamala Harris isn't perfect, and I've never voted for a Democrat a day in my life, but I believe her to be a person of good character, someone who will uphold the Constitution, unlike Donald Trump on January 6th.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
So some people don't like the fact, Renita, that Vice President Kamala Harris is targeting Republicans. But listen, this is an election by margins. And if you pick up 8 to 10% of dissatisfied Republican voters, that has an impact in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan.
Well, I think that people would have a different opinion about that if Democrats had not left voters that traditionally vote with them on the table. I'm one of those people that I don't love the parading around of Republicans. A lot of the folks that she's lifting up saying that are supporting her are people that we don't have policy in common or values in common. And so I think the main takeaway here is if you're going to reach out to a new group, don't forget who brought you where you are today. And we've seen progressives sort of left as a group that this campaign has not heavily engaged with, as well as Palestinians. I mean, those groups are sort of cast aside. And so what people are seeing is what looks like overtime bending over backwards to get the Liz Cheneys of the world. And that is a very risky election strategy.
But again, we're seeing a lot based upon polling data, how independents and others are casting their ballots. And so we'll see how it turns out. Now, let's check out this next ad. Actually, it's not an ad. It's not an ad. This is actually a video compilation some Gen Zers put together. This one caught my eye. I really like this one.
Things I trust more than Donald Trump.
Nick Cannon pull-out game.
Gas station sushi.
A Diddy party, y'all. Baby oil edition.
A Casey Anthony daycare.
Food in an Atlanta restaurant when I walk in and I see nothing but grass walls and hookah.
Potato salad with raisins and a 2-day leftover. Not once refrigerated.
Burger King chicken nuggets.
A shark with a pet me sign.
Stevie Wonder in the driver's seat.
Love it on Macongo.
Wow. I appreciate the fact that so much of what's been driven in this advertising space has not been driven by traditional advertisers or even organizations like the Lincoln Project. So many of these millennials and Gen Z folks, they're using their social media platform to put stuff out there that is creative and that really speaks to, like President Obama said, to people that he's not going to reach. And so the fact that they are picking this up, some of these younger guys will be voting for the first time and they're using their platform to reach their audiences. I'm so proud of what they're doing out there, and I'm looking to see more of it in the next week.
Oh yeah, I like I say, I thought that one was pretty cool. All right, y'all, gonna go to a break. We come back. We're gonna talk about the Ronald Greene case. We're gonna chat with his mom about that. That and more as we continue right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Again, support our work. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. Now, over the course of a year, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. I told y'all Cash App has really been tripping by changing their policies. And so if y'all want to support our work, please use PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Bob and I both voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice. I won't vote for him again. January 6th was a wake-up call for me.
Donald Trump divides people. We've already seen what he has to bring.
He didn't do anything to help us. Kamala Harris, she cares about the American people. I think she's got the wherewithal to make a difference. I've never voted for a Democrat.
Yes, we're both lifelong Republicans.
The choice is very simple.
I'm voting for Kamala.
I am voting for Kamala Harris.
He told us who he was.
Should abortion be punished? There has to be some form of punishment.
Then he showed us.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Now Donald Trump wants to go further with plans to restrict birth control, ban abortion nationwide, even monitor women's pregnancies. We know who Donald Trump is. He'll take control. We'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
The overturning of Roe almost killed me. I had a blood clot in my uterus that caused my labor to have to be induced because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I wasn't able to get life-saving treatment sooner. I almost died. And that's because of the decision that Donald Trump made.
I was able to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I'm proud to have done it.
The doctors and nurses were afraid that if they treated me in the incorrect way, that they would be prosecuted for that. And that's appalling. Donald Trump says that women should be punished.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? There has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah.
I believe that women should have reproductive freedom to make the choices about their own bodies. 4 more years of Donald Trump means that women's rights will continue to be taken away one by one by one by one. This has to stop because women are dying.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
In this town, we've seen our share of hard times, heard our share of big promises.
Up to 13,000 jobs.
But empty promises don't build cities.
Plans never materialize.
We do, with grit, sweat, and cold beer. So when he talks,
former President Trump called Milwaukee a horrible city.
We know talk is all he's got, and this is what we've got.
It's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power.
He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future.
That is a damning non-answer. America, I think you've got a really clear choice of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Hey, what's up? It's Sammy Roman.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, a former Louisiana State police officer will not serve a day behind bars for his role in the 2019 death of motorist Ronald Greene. Corey York entered a plea of no contest to 8 counts of simple battery on Monday. the first case resulting in the Greene case to conclude from among 5 law enforcement officers initially charged. York's plea was downgraded from 8 counts of malfeasance in office. A charge of negligent homicide had already been dropped. Now, as you can imagine, Greene's family was unhappy with the agreement. Mona Harton, Ronald Greene's mother, joins us now from Louisiana. Mona, this is just crazy. I mean, not a day. So what the heck? I mean, this is like a parking ticket.
Or it's worse than that. It's worse than that. The fact that we've been railroaded, we really have. It's just unbelievable that the state of Louisiana would do that. They hold themselves higher above the law. It clearly states that. We had whistleblower Carl Cavalier fired for speaking up on these killer cops. And every one of them stayed on the force. Every one of them have been given red carpet treatments. This is the state of Louisiana. This is true fact. This is policing in the state of Louisiana.
And Mona, let's people need to remember, I mean, the cops lied about your son. They first said he died in a car accident, and then they lied. They covered up how he was murdered.
They did. We were told, Ronnie Doug, and it doesn't even matter what we said, how much we pointed out. They glaze over that. Nothing we said, nothing we've done could make the state of Louisiana turn this travesty. They had no problem delivering this today. It's like we were led to slaughter.
Legal analyst Candance Kelly from New Jersey joins us. Candance, can you explain this? I mean, how does he not serve any time?
Well, listen, that's why it's called a plea deal. He made a deal in order to put himself in a situation where he gets no time in this situation, but he is going to testify against the last and final defendant in this case. And that's what I think that the DA is hoping to get out of this. He's hoping to get someone out of this, albeit we know that that's not good enough. But that's what the deal, that is what the deal was. I think the other thing, too, is that we are really giving this man a gift. Corey York was a part of a cover-up, as you said. But we're giving him the gift. Not only does he get to keep his pension of $83,000, but this is a man who can't be sued for wrongful death. This particular case cannot be used in terms of the plea deal in a wrongful death lawsuit. In addition, a $1,000 fine, time served, a year of probation, supervised, things that you would not imagine would come out of a year's cover-up for police who were supposed to protect and serve. Now, what the DA will say is that, listen, had I taken this case all the way to the point where I thought it could go, I could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these police officers were responsible for this man's death because there were drugs found in his system. But here's what we know, Roland. We know, but for the fact that this beating happened, that this shackling, this dragging, this punching, this kicking, but for the fact that this happened, this man would probably be alive. Now, it doesn't stop here. There is the federal investigation that's going on, but here's the problem with that. Since this took place in 2019, we have seen civil rights federal investigations come and go. There's something particular about this case that the DA is not letting hold of, that the federal government is not really pushing the needle on. And I'm not sure what that is, but we certainly are going to find out. They are saying that they are working, of course, to make sure that justice is served. You even had the former governor to say, like, this was racist and this was ridiculous. But so far, we have not gotten the justice that's needed for this man. Anybody in the situation, especially because there was a police cover-up, 2 years to get this video actually released, and they didn't release it. It was the Associated Press who shed light on this. They were not the ones who were responsible, literally lying in this situation. And my final point is this. Even though there were drugs found in his system, you had someone from the video who was on the ground, crying, screaming for help, telling them, I'm your brother, I need help. These are officers who took an oath to protect and serve. They had a fiduciary duty to protect and serve this man, and they did not. And I think that that is enough for a federal case to be made.
And Mona, I mean, it has to be frustrating. I mean, this has been 5 years of seeking justice for you and your family.
It's beyond, it's such a horrible nightmare. But you know what? It doesn't matter what they do, we're going to push forward. Like I said, just for the judge to sit there and say, in a conference call, you gave permission, you agreed to these terms. That is not so. I want to make it clear. That was not so. We weren't told that he was going to have 6 months in jail. We weren't told that this was a case termination. Those words was never given in the explanation of Nolo Contendo. We weren't told that. So when I say we were railroaded, we were misled to where we got, led to the slaughter, you know. But the point is, everyone says you got to be nice to the DA because you still have Chris Harpin there. But what's to be done with Chris Harpin? The same thing was done with Corey York. No one's paying attention to the beginning of the lies, no matter the cover-up. And this is huge. Everyone says you're dealing with the state of Louisiana. But what's happening in the state of Louisiana is a network of corruption, a network. These are criminals from every level of government entities. It lies deep. This web of, it's evil, it's nasty. I'm in the trenches of it, and I'm here to tell you, I'm stronger because of it, and I'm not giving up. I push for my son and for other families that has almost identical stories of what's happened to them behind police brutalities. This is evil, and I know that with everyone here, the fact that we have such huge followings, because they're angry, there's more of this that awaits for us, and I'm here to tell you, we're not stopping. Doorsteps of the DOJ and the feds.
And of course, Candance, next week's election is huge because depending upon who wins, that will determine whether you're going to have an aggressive DOJ or not.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the reason why we even have the aggressive DOJ that we have, perhaps not aggressive as we want it to be in this case, is because of the president. When Donald Trump was in office, he put a halt to these types of Department of Justice investigations in various state and local levels. We learn a lot from this process to find out whether or not police officers are doing their job. This is federal oversight. And that is exactly what is needed in this case, because had it not been for Ronald Greene's mother, this case would have never gotten this far. That video would have never been seen by the world. But it is not our responsibility to carry out the law. It is the government's responsibility, police officers' responsibility. This is why we pay our taxes. But indeed, this is something that if we see a President Trump, these Department of Justice investigations will definitely go away. Why? He's done it before.
All right, then. Mona, Candance, I appreciate it. We'll keep covering this story. Mona, you keep fighting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. It's just shameful that we keep coming back to this. 5 years, Makongo, is just nonsensical.
Yeah, and I'm not confident. I don't like saying that, but I like to be hopeful. But it's hard to be confident that anything's going to change, right? When they're saying that they're hoping that this officer, Corey, will testify against the other officer. I just feel like these guys already got the whole thing worked out in some way, shape, or form. And one of the things I'm also wondering is, what is the status of all of these officers? My assumption is that they all still have their jobs. And this is another reason as we go into next Tuesday, a Harris administration will usher forward, especially if we get the House and the Senate, the George Floyd Policing Act, because I can guarantee that these 5 officers under a federal investigation would not be getting off as easily as they are. I mean, time served, or probation and community service and so on and so forth for lying, for covering up, and a life that was taken. I mean, come on, man. But this is a wake-up call for all of us. Just because there hasn't been a national case in the news as of late, it doesn't mean that our families and our communities are not still dealing with these on a daily basis, the ones that already happen and the ones that happen daily that don't make the news. We can never forget these families, and I appreciate what you and the Black Star Network are doing to continually uplift them.
Yep, Rita.
Yeah, this is so disappointing. And, obviously I can't speak for his mom, but just as an outsider looking at this case, it feels to me that the result of this so far with this officer is more of a slap in the face than if he had just not been convicted of anything. I feel like we've seen this before where police officers have on tape killed folks. There's no dispute about what happened.
Right.
And we see officers, they end up not convicting them. That's less of a slap in the face than what this is for him to get such a just slap on the wrist. And so, this is just so ridiculous. I really feel like my heart aches for the family, and I really hope that the federal government, I do hope that there will be some other piece of justice that will come, because this is it's terrible.
Julianne, real quick before we go to the Kamala Harris rally, go ahead.
Just ridiculous, just ridiculous. I'm with Renita. My heart breaks. This man, he had to do something, but all he gets, $1,000? He fined $1,000 and time served. It's just wrong. But you know what? Here's what we know. We have a slogan that says Black Lives Matter because so many people have said that they don't. And this is an example of saying that our lives do not matter.
All right. Julian Amakongo, Renita, I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, we're going live to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Here's Vice President Kamala Harris.
And let me tell you why I love Coach Walz. As he travels to every corner of our country, meeting with people in small towns, big towns, everywhere in between, Coach Walz is always bringing the joy. He is always bringing the joy. He cares about people. He understands hard work, and he understands what it means to be a leader who lifts people up instead of trying to beat people down. That is Tim Walz. And Ann Arbor, I can feel the joy tonight. Thank you all so very much. And we have some other incredible leaders with us here tonight. Mayor Taylor, thank you. There you are. Deputy County Executive Turfy, I thank you so very much. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist. Representative Dingell, a champion for this community. And let's also send Alyssa Slotkin to the United States Senate. We need her in D.C. And I also want to thank all the labor, elected, and community leaders who are here today. And can we please hear it again for Maggie Rogers? All right. We got business to handle. Okay, so Ann Arbor, I have a question for you. Are we ready to do this? Are we ready to vote? Are we ready to win? Yes. And we will win. And we will win. So you just heard from the coach, early voting has started here in Michigan. You can vote early now through Sunday, November 3rd. And we need you to vote early, Michigan, because we have just 8 days to go, 8 days left in one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. And as everybody here knows, this is going to be a tight race until the very end. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work is joyful work. And make no mistake, we will win. We will win. Yes, we will. And we will win because together, and we will win, yes, yes. We can keep going all night. But one of the reasons we will win is because we are all in this together. We are all in this together. People from every walk of life, understanding that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And we here are fighting for the future. We are fighting for for the future. And we understand the opportunity that we have before us to turn the page on the fear and divisiveness that have characterized our politics for a decade because of Donald Trump. We have an opportunity to turn the page and chart a new and joyful way forward where we tap into the ambitions and we will tap into the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people. And let me tell you something, as I travel our country, there is an overwhelming call for a fresh start. People from all walks of life, and they are calling for a new generation of leadership that is optimistic and excited about what we can do together. There is a yearning in our country for a president who will see you, who gets you, and who will fight for you. And listen, hey, on the subject of Gaza, hey guys, I hear you. On the subject of Gaza, we all want this war to end as soon as possible and get the hostages out, and I will do everything in my power to make it so. And let's be clear, we are all here because we are fighting for a democracy and for the right of people to be heard and seen. We're not about the enemy within. We know we are all in this together. That's what we are fighting for. And my whole career, okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that. Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen, I have fought my whole career to put the people first and to put the people above partisanship. I never once asked in my career, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? The only thing I ever asked is, how can I help you? Are you okay? And that is a major difference between Donald Trump and me, and between the two extremely different visions that he and I have for our nation. His is focused on himself and the past. Ours is focused on the future, and it is focused on the people. So together we will build a future where we bring down the cost of living. That will be my focus every single day as president, because while inflation is down and wages are up, prices are still too high. You know it and I know it. And unlike Donald Trump, who had $400 million handed to him on a silver platter, and don't forget he filed for bankruptcy 6 times, the great businessman. Unlike him, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood with a working mother who kept a strict budget and did everything she could to make sure that my sister and I had all we needed. I come from the middle class, and I will never forget where I come from. Never. And so my common sense plan will lower the prices you pay on everything from prescription medication to groceries to housing. On the other hand, Donald Trump will raise costs on you and your family. In fact, independent economists have analyzed both of our plans and found mine will cut your costs and strengthen our economy, while his will increase inflation and lead to a recession by the middle of next year. And his agenda is laid out in Project 2025. You know, I say everywhere, and I know we've got a lot of students here, and I have to tell you, I just find it really interesting that they put that thing in writing. They put it in writing. They bound it They published it. They handed it out. And then they expect we're not going to talk about it? Are you kidding me? And when you read it, you will see it is a detailed and dangerous blueprint for what he plans to do if he is elected president. Donald Trump will impose a 20% national sales tax on everyday basic necessities, which economists have estimated will cost the average American family an additional $4,000 a year. Contrast, on the other hand, I'm going to take on corporate price gouging. I've done it before, and I will do it again. Donald Trump will give massive tax cuts, like he did before, to billionaires and the biggest corporations. He did it the last time. He's going to do it again. I, on the other hand, will give middle-class tax cuts to 100 million Americans, including $6,000 for the first year of a child's life, because I understand how that will lift America's children out of poverty, which must be one of our highest goals. Donald Trump will get rid of the $35 a month cap on insulin for our seniors. He will cut Medicare and Social Security. In fact, economists say he will bankrupt Social Security in the next 6 years. And understand what that means. So many of the seniors in America, that's their only source of income. That's the only way they're able to pay their rent and buy food. I have a plan to support our seniors so they can grow older with dignity and so their families are not overwhelmed by the cost of home health care. On top of that, my plan will bring down the cost of housing, cut taxes for small businesses, because small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and lower health care costs, because I believe health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, intends to end the Affordable Care Act and take us back, which would take us back to a time when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. You remember what that was like? Well, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. And we're not going back because we together will move forward to the future, because we believe in who we are and what is possible, and because we know it is time to turn the page. It is time to turn the page. Ours is a fight for the future, and it is a fight for freedom, like the fundamental freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. And we all remember how we got here. When Donald Trump was president, he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did as he intended, and now in America, 1 in 3 women lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exceptions, even for rape and incest. I was just in Texas the other day. You know, they provide prison for life for doctors and nurses and healthcare providers for providing care. Prison for life. And no exceptions for a crime that is a violation of someone's body, and then to tell that survivor of that violation, you have no right to make a decision about what happens to your body next? That is immoral. It is immoral. And I know we all agree, one does not have to abandon their faith. or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do. Not the government. And listen, you all have heard me say, I do believe Donald Trump to be an unserious man, but the consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious. Consider, on the topic we were just discussing, Donald Trump still refuses to acknowledge the pain and suffering he has caused. He insists that, quote, everyone wanted for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Everyone wanted this? Women are being denied care during miscarriages, some only being treated when they've developed sepsis. They didn't want this. Couples trying to grow their family have been cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. They didn't want this. The men of America are seeing their daughters and wives and sisters and mothers put at risk because their rights have been taken from them. The men of America don't want this. And women have died because of these bans. How could anyone say these folks wanted this? And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedoms, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. Proudly. Proudly. And I'm traveling our nation, so I have to tell everyone here, across our nation, we are seeing a full-on assault on other and additional hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights, like the freedom to vote. I was just in Georgia. You know they passed a law that makes it illegal to give people food and water for standing in line to vote? The hypocrisy abounds. Whatever happened to love thy neighbor, right? Attacks on the freedom to be safe from gun violence, the freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water, the freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. So I say to everyone here what you know. Generations of Americans before us fought for freedom. And now the baton is in our hands.
Bob and I both voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice. I won't vote for him again. January 6th was a wake-up call for me.
Donald Trump divides people. We've already seen what he has to bring.
He didn't do anything to help us. Kamala Harris, she cares about the American people. I think she's got the wherewithal to make a difference. I've never voted for a Democrat.
Yes, we're both lifelong Republicans.
The choice is very simple.
I'm voting for Kamala.
I am voting for Kamala Harris.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message because you work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
Philly Tough is different. They insult us.
Bad things happen in Philadelphia. Bad things.
They don't like us. We don't care. Because here's the thing that people like Donald Trump don't understand. We're Philly. F***ing Philly. And when you fight us, we fight back. From 1776 to 4th and 26th. So go ahead. Talk whatever you want, Donald. We're voting soon. And when it comes to freedom, Philly's undefeated.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. America's ready for a new chapter. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Winners never back down from a challenge. Champions know it's anytime, any place. But losers, they whine and waffle and take their ball home.
Trump now refusing to debate a second time.
He did terribly in the last debate. He's so easily triggered by Kamala Harris.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. If you've got something to say it to my face.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
I've had Steelers season tickets since I'm 7 years old, man. Me and my dad, that's our thing.
Here we go, Steelers! Here we go! Kick it!
I was a 7-year-old with a little mullet, just like a Pittsburgher should have, with a Cordell Stewart jersey on, sitting at Three Rivers Stadium watching in 1995. A Yinzer, I'd define it as somebody that bleeds black and gold, works hard, cares about their family and their hometown. Donald Trump does not care about the working man whatsoever. This guy's not looking out for my family. Talking about giving tax breaks to billionaires, and he's gonna sell out working families to pay for it. Cut our health care. Cut our Social Security. He's a little rich kid, too. He ain't me. Little silver spoon boy Donald Trump. How is he relatable to me whatsoever? The guy literally lives in a country club. Do I look like a country club kind of guy?
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
He told us who he was.
Should abortion be punished? There has to be some form of punishment.
Then he showed us.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Now Donald Trump wants to go further with plans to restrict birth control, ban abortion nationwide, even monitor women's pregnancies. We know who Donald Trump is. He'll take control. We'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Daddy, when's mommy's come home?
How am I supposed to tell him?